In a world where the constant race is always to go for heavier, larger, bigger, a company decided to create something which is a mini. This is the mini Shangri-La from HIFIMAN. This is an electrostatic headphone, and we also have the electrostatic amplifier. This is a setup priced at $2,300 US. And then the question is, why would you want the Shangri-La Mini? It is the most affordable yet the best sounding electrostatic headphone you can get in this price range. This is a fairly heavy amplifier. It looks pretty cool. It also has this symmetrical look, which is really close in design to the HIFIMAN EF400. There is no intention behind this. You shouldn't pair them together necessarily, because EF400 isn't HIFIMAN's best DAC. That would be the Serenade currently. The Serenade is insanely good for the price it has. But the amplifier of the Shangri-La Mini is quite cool. It is really heavy. This has almost 7 kilograms of weight. So with the fact that I don't have what to grip it from, it is hard to hold in my hands. At any rate, the amplifier has a step volume attenuator, just like iBass so typical implements in the product. So the volume attenuator acts in steps, click, click, click. You don't have a lot of steps, but they are enough. If I recall correctly, there are 24 steps of volume, which sounds like is not a lot. At first, it really sounds like it's not a lot. But first off, you might be able to use a DAC which has volume control already, so it has some kind of pre. And even if it doesn't, 24 volumes of steps are more than enough for most people. You can set it from really quiet to really loud across this volume. I never found myself thinking, I should be somewhere in between those two steps. I'm either, yeah, this is cool, or quieter is cool. I'm just not that picky with the volume. Although I do know some people tend to really want to be in between the volume. They really like to fine tune. So if that is important to you, you can check other amplifiers, although the headphones do work with any electrostatic amplifier in theory. We also have a selector between balanced and single-ended, so RCA or balanced, because at the back we have two inputs. We have an RCA input, which is single-ended, and we also have a balanced input, which is XLR with 3 poles. We have a power input, which also has a fuse. You can replace the fuse if you misconfigure the voltage, for example. I burned one unit once because I misconfigured the voltage, not from HIFIMAN, but I'm not even sure what I burned. Now that I think about it, I forgot what it was. I mentioned in the video review, but I did burn something. So you should make sure that you have the proper voltage. We have 220 volts in Romania right now, so I have to set it to 230 volts. There is an on-off switch, and that's about it for the amplifier. The amplifier gets really hot during usage. It's really, really hot. It's one of the hottest running units, although it never turns off, it never runs into overheating. There is good cooling at the bottom. There are slits for air to pass through, although there are no other slits anywhere else. So maybe don't place a hot running DAC above it, and don't place it above a hot running DAC. Most DACs are pretty cold. If you place it on top or beneath a cold running DAC, that would be great. If you notice that your amplifier, your mini Shangri-La amplifier, has a lot of scratches on the black stripe in the middle, so this stripe here, please make sure that you remove the plastic stripe. It comes with a plastic protection, which is extremely easy to scratch. Mine is full of scratches, but those are just scuffs on the plastic protection stripe. The actual black layer underneath is good. There is no scratch on it. Now that we arrived to the headphones, those are some of the lightest headphones on the market. They are 300 grams, literally one of the lightest headphones ever created. They have electrostatic driver, which means that the entire cup, you see this green stuff here, this is the driver entirely. One of the biggest drivers in existence. Once you put them on your head, you will notice that there is zero passive noise isolation. This is how most electrostatic headphones work. So zero isolation. I can hear myself absolutely as if I was not wearing any headphone. The leakage is also almost complete. Anyone in the same room as you will hear your music quite loudly. The cable is not detachable. I don't really know why, but I guess for an electrostatic headphone you just don't get a lot of aftermarket cables. The cable is quite long. I would think this is 2 meters, judging from this length. At any rate, it's quite long, which is satisfying because you won't place the amplifier anywhere near where you're listening to. The headband is one of the Ananda Nano headbands. It is different from the headbands on more affordable options. So every HIFIMAN headphone, even when they look the same, they are quite different. This headphone is one of the more comfortable ones. It sits quite nicely on my head. It offers me a good weight distribution, although it's such a low weight, you won't feel the headphones or the headband. The ear cups are huge, there is enough space for my ears. They are moderately hard to the touch. At any rate, the whole headphone is absolutely comfortable. It's one of the most comfortable headphones ever created. When it comes to the sound of the mini Shangri-La, the sound is in an entire world of its own. I did review the HIFIMAN Jade 2, which was an electrostatic system. It was years ago, and I did complain about a few things. For example, Jade 2 didn't have quite enough volume control. At loud volumes, it lost a bit of control. Also, the bass didn't reach quite that low. It had a bit of a bass roll-off. Overall, it was a good idea. The electrostatic element was there, but it wasn't quite ready. With Mini Shangri-La, I think this is ready. I think this is the best sounding. It's not just the best entry-level electrostatic headphone that I like. It's the one that I like the most from this price range. It compares favorably even to Stax headphones. First off, we have the bass. The bass of the Mini Shangri-La is quite full. They can present heavy-duty bass. There is a lot of low-end impact. The extension goes really well in the lows. It can reach 25 Hz, which is unique because most electrostatic headphones don't have a lot of bass. The mid-range is rich and atmospheric. It just extends everywhere. Shangri-La sounds wider than most speakers sound like. This electrostatic technology basically pushes very high voltages into the driver to give them better control. We are talking about 600 to 650 volts, which sounds like a lot, but don't worry, they won't burn your brain. The reason that doesn't happen is because the voltage is applied to the driver, not to your head. Even if you somehow made contact with both drivers, the amplifier would burn in an instant. You wouldn't have time to feel that voltage. But the idea is that with such a high voltage, you get a much better control for a much larger driver, because the driver is huge. See this green thing? That's the driver. It's so insanely large. You can even see through the headphone, and if you shine a light through, you can see the entire headphone and the driver, as the driver membrane is quite thin. This is important because a thinner membrane can move faster, it will respond better to impulse response, which in result will create a better sound, better detail, more resolution and less graininess. So everyone has something to win from a lighter, larger driver. The bass of the Mini Shangri-La is great. I can finally enjoy some pop, some EDM, some of my typical music. The main reason people go for electrostatic headphones is the mid-range, where electrostatic tech can really present a refined, detailed, and at the same time clean mid-range. There is no trace of distortion whatsoever. You don't hear any kind of THD. There is no distortion. You can even bring those to almost maximum, and I wouldn't suggest doing that because the amp now has more than enough power for them. While with the J2 I remember just bringing it to the maximum and feeling like it's not quite enough. With the Mini Shangri-La I never think that. It's enough. It's loud enough. I don't touch the last few steps of the volume. That's how loud it goes. And I'm a guy who can easily do 150 to 120 decibels if I'm happy. A lot of volume control. That is also important because some people have commented in some of my videos that on paperwork, some products do state that they have a higher driving power than when I compare them. And that's true. For example, there are some units that I note they don't sound quite as loud, even though on paper they should have higher driving power. The problem with that is that if you have a high driving power, it should be distortion free. It's not relevant if you have a high driving power if the THD grows to 1% or to 5% or such. What I consider true driving power is the maximum volume you can push a product at without distortion. If it starts to distort, that's not driving power. That's just being over optimistic about what your product can do. And I like this about HIFIMAN products. They always deliver more than what is promised. They never under-deliver. That is nice. Of course, when it comes to HIFIMAN products, some people complain a bit about the build quality because this headband is not quite as special as the other mechanisms that high-end headphones have. To give you a more clear example, here we have the Dan Clark Audio Expanse. This is a high-end headphone, a flagship at about $4,000 US, and as you can see, the headband is a bit more interesting. The only problem when you compare two headbands is the actual comfort you're getting. The comfort is pretty much equal, both are perfect. There is great comfort to be had with both. In fact, the DCA Expanse is a bit heavier than the Mini Shangri-La, so it needs a different headphone to support that weight. HIFIMAN, being aware of this, uses different headbands for different headphones, making them support the weight better. As electrostatic drivers are incredibly light, this headband does the job really well. Back onto the sonics, Mini Shangri-La sounds atmospheric. It creates the most convincing soundstage. It's the widest, it goes the furthest away from you, and it creates the most space between you and instruments and between each instrument that I've heard in a headphone. The dynamics are also insanely high. You can hear absolutely everything as if it was happening right next to you, while the treble is bright, brilliant and sharp. It is a very, very strong treble. That is not a negative, I like a strong treble, but you should be aware of it. If you are easily fatigued, maybe Mini Shangri-La will be a bit treble happy and airy for you. As you can see, there is a bit of movement laterally in the headband, so it's not just the same headband as with Sundara, for example, or other entry-level headphones. It is the same shape, and that's great because this is the lightest construction they could have gone for. I like having a lighter headphone. With an electrostatic headphone, typically the mid-range tonality is what you go for, because most headphones have some kind of coloration, while electrostatic headphones tend to reproduce both male and female voices the most accurately. It's just perfect. There is no deviation from what you consider natural. It's just right there with you. You just hear the sound as you would in real life, and that's magical. With the new release, Mini Shangri-La is totally worth the asking price. It's not just worth the asking price, this is the best electrostatic headphone you can grab right now. The best combo actually, because the headphone is much cheaper if you just purchase it, provided you have an energizer. I didn't talk too much about it, but this is what an electrostatic connector looks like. It's different from what most headphones use, and because it requires 650 volts at maximum and 600 volts at minimum, you need those energizers like the amplifier. So if you don't have an energizer, grab the combo. This is what I recommend. The HIFIMAN Mini Shangri-La amplifier is plenty powerful. At the end of the day, if you are looking for a conclusion, this is a setup you have to hear. I mean it, you have to hear it. I don't know if you have to purchase it because it has some drawbacks. For example, it can only be used at a desk, it needs a separate dock, so you are not done with the purchase at $2,500 US. You still need a bit more to make it run. But at the same time, when you hear the electrostatic setup, you understand why people sacrifice all of the other aspects and just go to the electrostatic right away. It's simply unique, it's atmospheric. This is the best way to describe it. It's truly atmospheric, truly dynamic, and high resolution. The resolution is insanely high. I honestly have not heard any Stax headphone that impressed me more, because Stax headphones suffer from the same limitations that I noted in my Jade 2 review, and that was a problem with electrostatics in general. Typically they are limited by volume, you can't really take them very loud because they start to distort, and they are limited by the bass extension, which is not quite enough. I have briefly heard the Mini Shangri-La bigger version at high-end Munich, and it also has this full bass. HIFIMAN just managed to add bass to an electrostatic headphone, which is unique. I will continue testing, I will continue reviewing, and I will be back to you with answers. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more, like this video if you are enjoying the content, and I hope you have a lovely week out there. Hope to see you soon. Bye!